Good morning, everybody. I'm back at home for the fourth in the series, The Long Lunch. Really excited because I'm joined today by Fiona Goddard, who's the Head of MEP for AECOM in the UK and Ireland. Here we go. Morning, how are you?
Great, thanks, David. Delighted to be here.
Good. I was trying to work out this morning how long I've known you, and I think I met you in 1993, so you must have been about 7. And you were in those days with Oscar Faber.
That's correct, yeah.
And we were looking to win a job at Canary Riverside at Canary Wharf, and which we were successful in. But of course, from then there was a bit of a gap before we worked again together. But tell me a bit about how you got involved in a consultancy practice all those years ago.
Okay, so I did my A-levels in subjects I enjoyed rather than in subjects I was specifically good at. So I did maths, physics and German.
Right.
And I came out at the end of that and thought, oh, where do you go from here? So my parents were keen that I went to university. I was not keen and they allowed me not to go. So I just looked at all the firms that had a requirement to have basic maths and physics as a background, which was really the engineering firms locally to me in Hertfordshire. Right. So Oscar Faber offered me a job as an apprentice electrical engineer on something like £3,245 a year. And so I worked for a year. Then I went off to university because I decided that I did enjoy doing what I was doing. And then, so I'm trying to work out 93, which is probably right. On that project, I was possibly a graduate or something at that stage.
Right.
And yeah, working as an electrical engineer on it was 4 apartment buildings.
4 blocks, wasn't it?
4
down
blocks,
at the far
about
end
422 apartments, and down, as you say, at West Ferry.
The west end of Canary Wharf,
Yep.
as it would have been known in those days. It was, for us as a business, it was quite an interesting project because I can't remember how we actually got involved in it, but there were thousands of downlights.
Yep.
And hundreds of sort of vapor-proof fittings going down into the car parks. And I remember creating these boards with all these products made of chipboard in those days and wheeling them into your office in Middle Street in Smithfield, thinking it was state of the art the way I was presenting these products to you.
It probably was, but one of the biggest issues we had on that project was making sure that we'd got the fire sorted out, particularly for the corridor apartments. Right. And that was probably because you were looking at it not just as a lighting manufacturer, but you were looking at it as part of the scheme. That probably was one of the things that... And
almost commercial in its manner rather than residential.
Absolutely.
So your career moved from there to Faber Maunsell.
Yes, so Faber Maunsell was the company, or the name of the company, when AECOM bought Oscar Faber.
Right.
So basically...
Tell us a bit about that.
So AECOM, an American company, bought Oscar Faber and they bought Maunsell and bought the two together. And in the UK, as the engineering business, we didn't really see a lot of difference. There was less pressure from the States of us doing certain things, and they kind of allowed our director team to just continue on running the business as it had been. I think it was slightly different when AECOM took over David Langan.
Right.
In terms of that side of things, that was much more of an immediate change. So I then just continued doing designs for I probably haven't done that many more residential since Riverside, but mainly the commercial market. And then over the years, I guess my career sort of went specifically into fit out. That's where I absolutely love fit out. Then I had a slight jaunt into data centres for a while, which was really when I moved from AECOM over to Hurley Palmer Flat, now right. HDR. And I did,
because of course centers. You went to AECOM, then you went to what was Hurley Palmer Flat, then you went back to AECOM.
Correct.
Which is where you are today, is it?
Yes. So I've basically had 5 professional jobs 3 are with what is now AECOM and 2 are with what is now HDR.
Got it. And AECOM as an organisation, personally, I know them as consulting engineers in the office fit-out market because that's where our organisation works. But of course, it's massive, isn't it? It's a huge organisation.
Yeah, I mean, our M&E teams specialise in all sorts of different sectors. So, the growth sectors are things like defence, obviously, whether that's fortunate or not, but defence, data centres, aviation. But obviously, we're still very embedded in the commercial market, both base build and fit out, do lots in higher education, healthcare. So, we kind of cover
across every
most
sector, really.
Sectors,
Yeah. And so when you took this new role, which was the beginning of 25, I think, as head of MEP, I mean, it's a huge title and a huge responsibility to take that over. Do you enjoy it?
I do, because I've got a good team around me. So basically, I've got 3 regional leads who are the operating unit leads running each of the sort of 3 big regions we've got.
Yeah.
And with that, we've also got some really good professional director levels, regional directors, who basically all specialise either in a particular sector or in something particular that they, obviously add value. And I get to know, or I've got to know most of them pretty well. And I know if I've got a query or a problem, I know who to go to get some help. So we had a recent job where we needed a specialist. It was based in the southeast, but one of my leads in Scotland was providing all the technical support.
And they've got electricity in Scotland now, haven't they?
They do indeed.
They
and likewise, we work with our European team. So one of my colleagues has just been out to Spain to help out on the project we've just won out there. Or it's not actually out there, but it's for Lisbon Airport. So our Spanish team are delivering that. A lot of the role now is about connecting people together. It's a bit like matchmaking. Dating agency. Yeah.
And you've never been frightened of surrounding yourself with great people, have you? That I know a lot of the people who work with you, for you, and you employ some pretty high class doers, as I call them, people that actually get on and produce a project.
So, it takes all sorts to become an engineer. Some people gravitate to pure technical and they want to purely deliver the technical aspect. And maybe they're less outgoing, but if you know that you've got them in the wings, and you get the right, into the right position, you bring them in and they're brilliant because they just want to discuss the technical bits. They might not want to go to a social and do the networking, but, it's horses for courses, really.
Sure.
It takes all sorts to make a team.
Where's your next step? What's your next role within AECOM then?
I think I'd like to carry on doing what I'm doing for a little while because there's some things that we can do to develop from where we are. So it's only really since I took over this role in September that we've now had a national MEP team. So previously our teams were clustered and we were doing MEP and structures.
Yeah.
So we've now nationalised both structures and MEP. And I think we've got some real good growth that we can do with that. And looking at the areas where we can either increase headcounts in offices or increase focus on some of the specialist sectors.
So with all your experience throughout MEP from, as you say, a graduate right the way through to leading one of the biggest practices in the country now, where's the biggest problems nowadays, would you say? What's your headache?
The headache is probably recruitment.
Yeah.
Because I think we haven't quite got it right over all the years. And we've had, with every recession, you have people who leave the industry, who then don't come back in. So really recruitment of really good quality engineers who are kind of at senior level and want to do a lot of the delivery, it's really difficult. We've got some excellent graduates coming out, but kind of you always need someone with a little bit more experience.
Yeah. To carry them through.
Absolutely. And then we've got a lot of the graduates and students who are now getting a bit worried about AI. So we've got to kind of get over the problem and try to understand what is the role of an engineer. And it's more of that sort of consulting and being the consultant making decisions on things rather than being a commodity of churning out calculations.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about AI, because at my ripe old age, I'm looking at it thinking, this is crazy, this is crackers. But there's people in my business who now say, no, we're using it, but we use it for 20% of what we need, and then we're adapting that. But the fact that we're letting a computer decide, you could almost have a computer now that will just deal with a lighting calculation for you, which to me terrifies me.
Yeah,
because
it does.
If you don't put the right information in, you can't have the.
That's exactly it, and that's where the consulting bit comes in. Is that it's making sure that the right information's been put in, and that the information that comes out is checked and is kind of, that's where your years of experience come in to say, well, actually, that's roughly what I thought it was going to be. So we can start trusting it. But you've got to do lots of preparation to learn how much you can trust. And, you know, as you say, rubbish in, rubbish out. So when I started back as a graduate in Middle Street in London, we had one computer between 8 of us. You had to book your slot in to go and do your calculations.
I want to touch on the what I consider quite the hot topic of construction industry in general, and that is the transformation over the last 15 years of how many women have come into construction in general. And when you look at it broadly, there are certain professions that seem to have really grasped it. Yours isn't.
No, engineering hasn't grasped it.
But
really.
If you look at it from another angle, interior design, architecture, public relations, those types of profession have definitely had more input and more women wanting to be part of that. Because I've always had this view that these changes have to be somewhat generational. It's very difficult to say we want more engineers that are ladies in the field because that's correct. But the fact is, it has to start much lower than that. It has to start in the schools. It has to start in the colleges. And also, perhaps parents who are engineers thinking of their daughters being engineers rather than their sons being engineers, which can be the conundrum as well. But with International Women's Day 2 weeks old, I think, I'd never even heard of it when I was younger. I want to get your view, because you've made this massive success coming out of a male-dominated industry to seeing it transform as slowly as it is into an industry that has got some, you're living proof, some highly qualified, experienced, brilliant people in it.
So, well, thank you for that. I completely agree with you. We can't transform overnight. You can't suddenly change your stats to suddenly employ a lot more female engineers, because there just aren't that many people in the market. I mean, when I was at college, I think there were 110 of us started on the course, and 100 men, 10 women, and I was the only female graduate that year with a degree out of 63 of us who finished.
Where'd you go to college?
Southbank Uni,
okay.
Or Southbank Poly as was. So we had a few people who went and did an HND route. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think we need to probably reevaluate some of the levels of qualifications we want people to have. So I think it's a whole thing where we need to really start at school age. Try to, as an industry, we need to be going into schools and explaining to school leavers or school pupils that actually construction is a good industry to be in. It's got lots of problems, but as have other industries.
If you take my profession, lighting, well, unless you actually come and say, I want to get involved in light because you know somebody, you generally won't find that until you've gone into perhaps the early parts of the higher education, where that will be formed as part of one of the degrees, won't it?
We as a community need to go back into schools and not only actually just educate the children, it's educate some of the parents and some of the teachers, because then, you know, you need to start explaining to the teachers so they understand what we do, because then you've sown that seed and they can do some of the work for you. But I think we need to go back in and explain what some of the jobs are. I mean, as we were discussing earlier, there's a much more mixed design team on construction projects now. A lot architects, interior designers, project managers, a really good mix of male and female now. Engineers, we're kind of slightly slow to catch up. So only by getting it right at the school age will we persuade people to study the right subjects in order to come out and become engineers.
When I was at school, there was no discussion about construction other than if you were a labourer or you laid bricks or something.
Absolutely. And that's how people see construction, as is being either a builder, but they don't really see or understand that much wider piece of, you know, what actually goes into any of the major construction projects.
No. I remember 5-6 years ago asking at one of the local schools close to our factory in Edenbridge that I got my PA to call them and say, I'd like to come and talk to their, what in my head was 5th-year-old, sort of 15-year-old, about lighting, but they weren't interested in and it wasn't just about me going, about anybody. It wasn't something that fitted in with their, and I always thought that was a bit.
It's a bit
crazy.
Sad, really, isn't it? It's a bit sad that
because you're looking for one who might say, "Do you know what? I'd like to look into that. We'll come and have a job in your holidays and sit with the designers."
We try to open the offices a little bit over the summer holidays, get some of the youngsters in who are at that sort of age where they're just selecting their GCSEs. And to come in and have a look at what engineering is.
Yeah.
You know, I've got the slight advantage is I can give them a few hours with maybe a cost consultant or a project manager as well. But to come and see what we do in the company and to allow them just a bit more insight into what they might be doing day to day. I mean, most of the kids who come in really enjoy doing the Revit designs.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of akin to what they're used to doing at school.
And physically see something at the
and
end.
They're actually physically seeing something develop. I mean, but then it's also interesting as you have the slightly older school children come in and you go, you know, you've got parent permission, etc., to get them on site. And then they get wowed by actually it's all there and there's building going on around them. It's really, you know, it's inspirational.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to see that as well.
Interesting that. Do you think that university degree is vital in engineering?
I think you need to have studied, not necessarily to degree level. I think the HND level is good. I think we've had a strange shift over the last 5 years where all of a sudden all the institutions wanted people to have a master's. I think that's excessive. I think a bachelor's degree is perfectly fine. It's about having a gut instinct of how you do work and how you do things. On the basis all the calculations will eventually be taken away by others to do, be it AI or whatever. It's about having people with the right mindset and the right understanding of how buildings get put together. Because you are an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer, but you're not that on your own. You're part of a team. It's about working as a team. And, you know, you don't get taught that as part of your degree. It's something you're either good at or you're not so good at. So,
and I guess for someone who actually struggled to go to school, didn't even like that much, but I certainly didn't do university. I do understand that there is a huge amount of technical knowledge that needs to be absorbed and have that. But there's also a side that says, yes, but people who experience being on site, coming through the tools, then going to college. There are many different routes, aren't there?
There are indeed, yeah. And you know, some of the best engineers in the team probably have had that wider experience. And so they might have come to us a little bit older, but But it's also, it really excites me. I've got some placement students who are in for their sort of third year of university saying they're enjoying it so much because they're putting the sort of, the knowledge they've gained from university into a practical level.
Yeah.
And that is,
So
it's
they
nice
understand what it
so they understand
involves.
actually what a lot of the calculations actually mean and the implications of those.
If somebody came to you today, I don't know, 16-year-old young girl, young guy, and said, I want to go into your profession and do what you do, what would be the route that you would suggest? Is there one fix, or
I
is there
don't
many
think there
different
is one fix. It's getting to know that person a little bit and seeing is the right route going straight through university.
Yeah.
It might be that they need to kind of do that little bit of growing up.
Yeah.
And therefore go and do the university, get all that high life out of you, and then come back in as a serious engineer. But it may be that you'd be better doing a sort of part-time degree and working part-time.
Yeah.
Clearly there's a lot of problems now with some of our youngsters who just don't have the financial backing. So we shouldn't preclude those people from being engineers and doing what I did, because their parents don't have the money to support them.
No.
We don't want all these people coming out with these huge debts at the end of university with that big problem over their head.
No.
So
and there are hundreds of thousands of them out there.
There are indeed.
My daughter's one of them.
Oh.
And sits there, and every month out of her wage is £400 or something that goes, and it'll be going forever because the extortionate interest rate that we won't make this political, obviously, but I am talking, so I have to a little bit. But the fact is, the interest rates are extortionate, and they shouldn't be. But I guess that's a different matter. But to move the conversation on to the International Women's Day, which I don't know when it was formed. It was obviously formed with people all the best intentions, and it's obviously producing. Producing is the wrong word. But it's obviously attracting people to say, yeah, we want to go and do this. We want to be part of this. So what's your view on that as someone that came through before it was probably even, I know.
Well, I do think it's great to have a day to just stop and think and celebrate. Just go.
The progress.
Just the progress that we've made, and the fact that there are some really good females out there doing whichever role it is within their industries. And I think, just stopping and just taking a moment to think about it is brilliant. And no, it wasn't around when I was young. And I think the one thing, if I look back, I was always an engineer, and then I was engineer part of a design team. And I kind of kept my head down about the fact that, by the way, did you know I'm female? And because it was different. You just got on and did your job, and you never really wanted to put your head above the parapet.
Yeah.
Because you know what, someone might come and shoot you down.
Yeah.
So you just got on and did your job. And now it's strange, because I do have a lot of people who want to do women particular networking or whatever, and I guess in some ways I don't really relate to that because I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But when I look at it and I think, well, actually, if it's giving someone else some confidence to get on and do their day job,
that's what I was going to come on to.
That
was the confidence.
It's confidence. It's all about confidence.
All the years I've known you, from, as you say, when I met you, you might have been a graduate or very early in your career. You always had a presence, a confidence about you.
Just on International Women's Day, that some of the really nice events are actually, and I've been invited to a couple in the last couple of years, where I was actually invited as the guest, but I was asked to bring a guest. And I was asked to bring a guest of someone who kind of was an influence. So I actually took one of my male colleagues because he was an influence on me. He was actually an influence of me getting my current job.
Oh, wow.
And it was really nice to be able to kind of celebrate.
Can you tell us who that is, or is that a secret?
Yeah, it's Paul Latham.
Oh, wow. I know Paul really well. Yeah.
So, it's a nice way to celebrate, but it isn't necessarily just about celebrating only women. It's about celebrating why we are where we are, how we got there, and the influences that helped it.
So we're coming to the close because we've got to go and have lunch soon, Fiona. So
That'd be nice.
But before we go, I've just got a couple of off-the-cuff questions for you. Had you not decided to follow the path you had, was there some other wish or dream that you wanted to do? Or if you had your time again, would you do this or would you do something different?
I think if I had my time again, I would do this because I kind of really enjoy my job. I might have done it in a slightly different way.
Sure.
But
well, just gone straight to the position you're in now.
That'd be nice.
I get that. The other thing I wanted to ask you is if tomorrow morning somebody said, right, Fiona, you can go anywhere in the world for 6 months, where would you and David go?
I think we'd go to Greece.
Would you?
Love
Whereabouts?
Greece. Island hopping.
Oh.
Or if I had to choose one island, I'd go back to Santorini.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Listen, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I've loved this conversation with you. And that really brings to an end episode 4. Thanks, Fiona.
Thank you, David.